Greetings, I am Heidi Claire Fajardo, and now I am going to explain the dentist class of our project. So to start, the dentist class represents a dentist with attributes like ID, name, address, contact number, and commission rate. So it also keeps track of the services the dentist offers. So to break down the code, let's start with this one. So the IRA list class is important because it is used to store a list of services offered by the dentist. So for this part, this is where we declare attributes. So these variables store details about the dentist like the ID, the name, the address, the contact number, the commission rate, and the services. So a list of services the dentist offers is stored as an array list of service objects. Next. So this is the constructor. So the constructor initializes the dentist details. It also creates an empty array list of services and adds 4 default services with fixed prices. First is the cleaning for 500 pesos, the whitening for 1,000 pesos, the filling for 1,500 pesos, and the extraction for 2,000 pesos. So next. For this part, these are the getter methods. So it accesses private data. These methods allow other parts of the program to retrieve the dentist information while keeping the variables private. So for the last one, so this is an override to string method. So the toString method formats the object's data as a string for easy printing. And that is all for the dentist class.
Greetings everyone, I'm BRILLANTE and I'm here to discuss the client class. So let's start with the import Java.util arrays. So we are importing the arrays class from Java.util package. So this allows us to use dynamic lists to store multiple objects without needing to define a fixed size in advance. So we need array list to store the list of dentists associated with a client. Next we have the public class client. So we are defining a public class named client. Public means this class can be accessed from anywhere in the program. So these class models a dental client, meaning it will hold information about a person receiving dental services. So this one, so we declare 5 private instance variables, which are the private string ID, private string name, private string contact number, private string address, and private array list dentist. So the first one, which is the private string ID, stores a unique identifier for each client. And then the second one, which is the private string name, holds the name of the client and allows the clinic to identify the person easily. Next is the contact number, so stores the phone number of the client and used for communication such as the appointment reminders. Next is the private string address, so it stores the client's address and is useful for billing or documentation. And last is the private array list dentist. So client array list. So since a client might visit multiple dentists, we use an array list to store multiple dentist objects. So this list starts empty and a dentist can be added later. So why are these variables private? So private ensures a data encapsulation. So meaning they cannot be directly accessed from outside the class. Instead, we provide getter methods, which are these, to safely retrieve the values. So next we have the public client. So this is the constructor of the client class. So the purpose of this is it initializes a client object when it is created. So how? So it takes 4 parameters, which is the string ID, string name, string contact number, and string address. So it assigns them to instance variable using this. So the dentist new array list creates a new entry list of dentists when a new client is registered. So this ensures that when a client object is created, its dentist list is ready to store dentist. Now for the getter methods, which are this. So these getter methods allow other parts of the program to access private variables safely. So why don't you make these variables public instead? So if you make them public, other classes could modify them directly, which violates data encapsulation. So instead, we control access using getter methods. Now for adding a dentist to a client, which is this one. So this adds a dentist object to the client's dentist list. So when this method is called, it takes a dentist object as an argument and adds it to the list. So if a client visits a new dentist, we record the dentist in their profile. Last is the override. So this converts the client objects into a readable string format. So why do we need it? So when printing a client object, system that out of print line client, Java automatically calls this method to format the output.
Dangal greetings everyone, my name is JM MEJIA and I will report the service class in the dental clinic management system. So here, this is the attribute and methods, which is private string name. This will represent the name of the dental service. And the second one is the private double price, which we use double for the cost of the specific service. And the constructor, which is the public service string name double price. This will initialize a new service object with the name and price. And the getter method, which is get name and get price. This will return the name and price of the service. And the string method, which is this will override from the object class to provide a customized string representation of the service object. By default, the string method in the object class print the class name and the code, but overriding it allows for a more meaningful output, and it returns a formatted string displaying the service name and price. The example output is cleaning and 500 pesos. And for I think that's all. And
Greetings everyone, I'm FRISCO and I'm here to explain the transaction class. So the transaction class represents a dental transaction in the system. It stores information about the client, the services they availed, and the total cost of those services. This class ensures that every transaction is properly recorded and provided a way to display transaction details in a readable format. So on line 3, public class transaction, the class is declared as public, meaning it can be accessed from the other parts of the program. It follows the standard object-oriented programming principle. So inside the class, there are 3 private instance variables that are defined to store essential transaction details. On line 4, private client, dental client, this variable stores a client object representing the patient involved in the transaction. By linking a transaction to a specific client, the system can track which patient availed which services. On line 5, private array list service, dental services, this is an array list that holds multiple service objects. It represents the services provided to the client during the transaction. An array list is used instead of a regular array to allow for a flexible number of services. On line 6, private double total service cost, this variable stores the total amount the client needs to pay for the selected services. It ensures that the cost calculation is explicitly recorded within each transaction object. So these instance variables are declared as private to enforce encapsulation, meaning they can only be accessed within the transaction class. This also prevents unintended modifications from the other parts of the program and helps maintain the data integrity. So in lines 8 to 12, the constructor method initializes a transaction object by assigning values to its instance variables. In line 8, public transaction client, dental client, array list service, dental services, and double total service cost, it takes the 3 parameters. First is the client, which is the dental client, to associate the transaction with a specific client. The array list service, dental services, to store the services included in the transaction, and lastly, double, to record the final cost of the transaction. So inside the constructor, there's the this.dental client equals dental client. On line 9, it assigns the provided client object to the instance variable, ensuring the transaction is linked to the correct patient. In line 10, this.dental services equals dental services stores the list of a service availed by the client. On line 11, the total service cost equals total service cost sets the total price of the transaction, making it easy to retrieve later. In lines 14 to 21, the toString method provides a custom string representation of a transaction object. This method is useful when printing transaction details allowing for a easy readability. So in line 4, there's a override. This annotation indicates that the method is overriding the default toString method inherited from the other class. By overriding it, the method provides a more meaningful representation of the transaction object. In line 16, a string variable is initialized to store the formatted list of the service in the transaction. While in line 17 to 19, this loop iterates through the list of services in the transaction and appends their string representation to service details. In line 20, the method returns a formatted string that includes the client names, the list of services availed, and the total cost of the transaction. So this method ensures that when a transaction object is printed, it displays a clear and structured summary of the transaction, making it easy to understand.
Greetings, my name is Humphrey AMANDY and I will discuss the main class. For the first and second line, the import Java util.arraylist and Java util.scanner. The array list will store the list of dentist, client, and transaction. For the scanner, it will read the user input. Next is the public class main. It holds the global variable, which is the private static array list dentist, registered dentist, and the private static array list client and registered client, private static array list transaction, and dental transaction. For the registered dentist, it stores the dentist object, and for the registered client, it stores the client object, and for the dental transaction, it will store the transaction object. And last is the private static scanner. It will read the user input from the console. Next is the main method, the public static void main. It will display the main menu. Next is the switch statement. It will handle the dentist and clients for the case number 1. And for the case number 2, it will manage the transaction. And for the case 3, it will exit the program. And for the default, it will call the system.out.print invalid choice. Please try again. For the private static string generate dentist ID, it will generate a dentist ID, a 4-digit dentist ID. For example, is 0001. Next is the private static string generate client ID. It will generate a client ID in the format of 2025-001. And next is the private static void manage record. This will display a submenu for managing the dentist and client. Also, it reads the user choice and returns to the main menu if the user pick the 5, number 5. Next is the switch statement, which handles the dentist and the client record. For the case 1, it will add a new dentist and it will generate a unique ID, ask for the details of the dentist, and create a dentist object. Next is the case 2, which add a new client. Also, it generate a unique client ID. Also, it asks for the details and it will create a client object. Case 3 is for the display all registered dentists. And for the case 4, it will display all registered client. And for the default, it handled the invalid menu, invalid choice. And that's all.
Greetings, I'm Aguilan and I'm gonna explain the managed transaction. And so first is the while true for infinite loop. So patuloy na magra-run yung program until the user select option 4. And displaying the menu. So magdi-display yung menu and kukunin yung user input. So yan, may int choice, input, scanner, next int, and yun, mag-consume siya ng next line. So exit condition, so yung if choice equals to 4, so ayun yung back, so magre-return lang sa method. So gumamit tayo ng switch dito para, ayun, yung may mga choice kasi para ma-handle natin siya. So sa case 1, adding a transaction. So mag-check muna if the registered clients is empty and the dentist. So pag empty siya, so no clients or dentist available. And if there's no clients or dentist, print message and exit the case 1 using break. So sa baba nun, ito registered clients. So, gumamit tayo ng for each para yung program is ma-display yung list of registered clients with their ID and name, and the user is asked to enter a client ID. So, dito may searching tayo na nangyari sa client sa list. So, gumamit ulit tayo ng for each. So, for client C, registered clients, no? So, yung ID yung nagiging parang pamantayan. The program searches for the client in the registered client list. If the entered client ID matches, the client is already selected. So, yun, checking if the client exists. If it's not exist, so pupunta siya sa if client equals to null. So, client not found. So, pag walang matching na client yon, so mag-exit siya sa case 1. So, selecting a dentist. So, dito, katulad nung nauna, i-display niya lang yung list of dentists with their ID and name, and the user is required to enter a dentist ID. So, ayan. So, mag-searching uli. Searching uli using for each. So, for dentist D, search siya na i-iterate niya yung registered dentist. So, if D that get ID that equals to dentist ID. So, magbe-break. The program searches for matching dentist ID. So, if the dentist exists, tas if dentist equals to null, dentist not found to break. Kapag walang matching dentist is found. So, magpiprint yung dentist not found and exit to case 1. So, available services. So, the program retrieves and displays the list of services offered by the selected dentist. And the user is asked to choose a service by a number. So, since hindi naman ako mag-explain ng service, so sa service, may ano doon. Saan yun? Saan yun? Basta ito. So, yun, service. May cleaning, whitening, filling, and extraction. So, dyan siya yan si user mamimili. And, sa pagkuha ng index, saan yan? So, the processing service selection. So, ito, select service. So, the user input number is converted into array index. Since gumamit kami ng array list, so, index array ang kukunin. If the index array is out of range, it will print a error message is displayed invalid service selection. Otherwise, the selected service is stored in selected services. So, mag-i-store siya if tama yung in-input ni user. So, dito, sa calculation, double total price equals to service that yung kukunin niya yung service. So, i-multiply niya yung commission times 100. So, ayun, I divided by 100. Then, ito. So, ayun yun na yung total price with commission. So, magkakaroon ng payment. So, si user is required to kung ano magkano yung payment niya. So, this is spread. So, i-check niya din. So, may error. Kailangan yung input ni user is mas mataas doon sa total price. So, kapag magbabayad tayo, syempre, kailangan may sapat tayo na pera para magbayad. So, kapag nag-false yun, pupunta yun sa insufficient payment. So, magka-cancel yung transaction. So, storing the transaction. So, ayun nga, gumamit kami ng array list dito. Mag-store siya sa service. So, ayun. And a new list of selected service created. A transaction object is added to the dental transaction. Ito. Wait. So, the success message is displayed. So, ano ba? Yan. So, sa case 2 naman, so, ayun lang, mag-view lang yung dental transactions. So, yung gumamit ng for each. And also, the deleting transaction. So, gagamit na naman tayo ng index dito kung anong index yung i-delete natin since ito ay array list. So, ayan. If index is greater than or equal to power and index section size, so magre-remove siya. So, kailangan 0 pataas. Kasi since ang index is mag-uuna is 0. So, ayun. Invalid index kapag nag-false dito. And, so yun, default. If invalid choice. So, this method is all about the validates client, dentist, and service selection, calculate the total price including the commission, and ensure a proper payment before confirming a transaction, and allow user to view and delete transaction, and prevent invalid input using conditions. And that's all. Thank you.
Greetings everyone, my name is Rosales and I'll be demonstrating the entire program itself. So before we demonstrate, I'd like to first allow you, the viewer, to understand how this program works and how its classes are related to each other. So basically, we'll start from the transaction class, wherein it houses the client details, the services, and of course the total cost. So it needs details from the client class. So this client class will basically records or contains the records of the client profiles. So, but also it needs details from the dentist profiles. Why? Because from the concept or the premise of the program itself, the client can be associated with one or more dentist instances. However, the dentist class can only be associated to one client instance at a time. So basically, the client can have many association with the dentist, but the dentist will only cater to one client at a time. And the dentist can also be associated to many service instances, which needs the details from the service class. And actually, service class will be also needed by the transaction class since it also needs details from it. And then those details, those transaction details, will be reflected to the main class. So to start off the demonstration, allow me to first discuss to you how this works. So basically, this program allows the user to input the profile or records of the dentists and the clients. And from that, it can allow user to create transactions and compute total prices based on the services offered by the dentists. So as you can see, the program is already executed. So we'll start off with the main menu, which houses three options. One is for the managing the dentist and client records. Two is managing transactions, and three, exiting the program. So let's now go ahead with the first option. Number one, let's type number one, and here we can manage the records or the profile records. So we can add the dentist, add a client, view the dentist information, and view client info, and of course go back to the main menu. So we're going to add a dentist profile first. So number one, and as you can see, it automatically generates an ID. So if it's a first profile, it automatically generates as 0001. So let's enter a name. Let's type in my name, for example. And then it also asks the address. So let's make it simple. Let's just type in Kabuyao. And then it also asks for the contact number. So let's just type random. Actually, no. Let's just type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So basically, that's 11 numbers. And then enter commission rate. So this is enter commission rate %. So basically, it automatically converts it to percentage. So let's say 30. So basically means 30%. Or when you convert it, it's actually 0.3. So when you enter that, it actually saves the record to an array list. Now let's add another dentist. So as you can see, it automatically increments into another number. So from the previous 0001, it now becomes 0002. So let's type in my co-member's name here as an example. And now we can input the address. So let's just say Kabuyao again. And contact number, let's just use the same one, for example. And now commission rate, let's increase it a bit. So let's say 40%. And now 2 dentists are recorded in the array list. So now let's add a client profile. So let's pick number 2. So I'll use my co-member's name again for this one. And as you can see, it generated a client ID, which corresponds to the current year and the number of the current client info. So as you can see, it's the first one, so it's going to be 0001, 2025 0001. So let's type in a name. And now contact number. And now let's go with the address. So let's say Calamba. And as you can see, it only needs the name from the name until the address information. So now let's add another client. So as you can see, it increments into another number. So 2025 0001 from before, and now 2025 0002. So let's type in another one of my co-members' name. And now let's type in an example contact number. Now let's enter an address. So let's say Santa Rosa. And now as you can see, it added into the array list. So now that we have added it, to check, let's see the dentist info. So we will pick number 3. As you can see, it entered it displayed rather the information that we have just entered earlier for the dentist profiles. And as you can see, it already provides us with the list of services that they offer. Now let's go with the client info. Let's see if it will display the clients that we have entered earlier. As you can see, it did with the right information. Now let's go back. And now we will proceed with the managing of transactions. So basically, here we can add or make transaction rather, to view the transactions that we have made, and number 3, delete a transaction. So let's type in 1, which will create a transaction. As you can see, we can pick from the registered clients that we have entered earlier. So we will just going to pick one, and through the typing of their ID. So let's say the first client, 225-0001. Let's pick that, and we can have and here we can pick a dentist that will cater to the client. So let's say the first dentist. As you can see, the available services it will display, and remember, the commission rate is 30% rather, for the first dentist, which will be added to the cost of the chosen service of the dentist. So let's say number 1, just for cleaning, 500 pesos. As you can see, it automatically computes the total cost with the added commission rate from the dentist. So from 500 pesos, it became 650 pesos due to the 30% commission rate. So enter payment amount, so 650. And as you can see, we have no change. Transaction added successfully. And as you can see, it can display change. So let's say we can have another transaction from the same person with the same dentists. As you can see, let's pick 2, whitening 1,300, and I have 2,000 pesos. And as you can see, it computes the change. So 1,300 subtracted from 2,000 will give us a change of 700 pesos. So okay, so now let's try having a transaction from the same client, now with a different dentist. So 2025, pick one first, then say 2025-0001, and let's pick 0002 dentist. So let's say number 3 service, and as you can see, 22,100. So let's pick 2,500, and it gave us a 400 peso change. And we can actually view the transactions as well, as I said earlier. And as you can see, complete with the client's name, the services offered, and the total cost. The total cost that was computed from the cost of the service and the added commission rates. So now let's try to delete a transaction. Number 3, as you can see, it automatically displays the options available for the user to delete. So transactions 0 to 2, it shows the index number. So let's try the second transaction to be deleted, which means we'll have to type number 1. And let's now view the transactions, and as you can see, it deleted the second transaction. And that is all for our program. Now we can go back to the main menu and exit. That is all. Thank you for listening, everyone.